one of the things that people do is when they see the debt at the end as the finish line, they
Mhm.
do need that breath. So I think we have to go, wait a second, we're not at the finish line yet. And that can kind of help with that mindset a little bit. But I really do think it's critical now that you start at least putting something. So you've got that sort of $2,000 a month or $1,800 a month that has been available. If we don't give those dollars a job right away, they're going to be absolutely put into the furniture. And as you know, furniture is not an asset and it's going to depreciate over time, right? So I do want you to have
Yeah.
some fun with it, but I want you to really think about what is the number. And even if
Mhm.
you don't know quite yet where you want to put it, we can just kind of throw it into a high interest savings account for just a little bit. We wouldn't do it forever, but we just put it aside for a bit. And then you got to come up with a deadline for yourself. So it's got
Yeah.
to be like, by April 1st, which is Carrie's anniversary. So if you're like, by the time
Oh,
Carrie and Nick celebrate their 400th anniversary, because they've been married for decades and centuries, then I'm going to start investing, right? You got to come up with that for yourself. Here's what you're going to do because you're Canadian. What you're going to do first is you're going to have a look at your taxes when you file your taxes and just see if there's a way that you can lower your income taxes by contributing to that RSP. And if so, you're going to kind of figure out what that number is. You're going to talk to your accountant or whoever does your taxes, and you're going to start building that into your 2024 investing so that every year, right, your income tax is lowered. And then when you get that refund, whatever that amount is, that amount immediately goes in your tax-free savings account.
you started something here. There's a snowball effect happening. There's a lot of talk about insurance happening these last couple of days in my world now.
I know maybe I am an influencer after all, because when Starbucks started putting eggnog in the chai lattes, I
Yep.
told everybody, and everybody started drinking chigs.
Yep.
Now people are getting their finances in order.
Yep.
Maybe I need to start dancing on TikTok and stuff, like making like a little dance move, like "You're gonna die one day." You know what I mean? And coming up with some hip hop moves.
I'm
No,
not sure which moves go with that lyric exactly, but I would love to see it, and I'm sure others would too.
well, I am really proud that y'all have been filling out Policy Me life insurance and critical illness insurance apps because I just think it is that thing that we have to do to make sure that we just take care of our lives, our people, our family, our assets, and we just have to start insuring our income. And most of us have content insurance for our homes or car insurance for our vehicles. And it's ridiculous because there's no guarantee you're going to get in a car accident. Some people go their whole lives without ever getting in an accident, but nobody goes their whole lives without dying. And it's just weird that we don't make that mandatory.
I don't know why. I think that I laugh because I'm so uncomfortable every time you say that. I giggle because I'm like, hee hee, I'm gonna die.
Well, I think laughing about it's fine. I know. I mean, obviously, if you've recently lost somebody this week, you think that we're a couple of bitches right now. And so you're in a different emotional place. But, if you understand the nuances of life and how we just have to laugh at something, I think the best people in the world are nurses
Mhm.
or dental hygienists because they see some, you know what I mean? And so they develop that really dark humor that helps them cope with all the things that they see, but they honestly are the funniest people and the most fun to hang around. And I think it's because they have a developed sense of humor. I think if we avoid talking about things that are hard, we don't develop a sense of humor. So I just think it's critical. Anyway, congratulations to all of you that have made that move. I'll put the link in the show notes one more time in case you're interested in being like, yeah, I need to take care of this. It's like a couple of minutes to get a quote, maybe 2 minutes. You fill out a couple of things and a couple of check boxes. You get a quote right there. If you decide to go ahead, it's about a 10 to 20-minute application process and you're insured and it's done.
Okay, what's the next lyric in your rap?
We know you're gonna croak, so don't do it broke. No?
That's like a jingle. I love it. Rob, cut it, market it. We're going to air.
I am so excited today that we're going to talk to somebody else who got the hell out of debt. You got to send her a sticker. Here's a fun thing
Ooh.
that we do inside the program when you join the Get the Hell Out of Debt program at getthehelloutofdebt.com. Of course, there's 3 phases to the program. Phase 1 is where you learn all the financial fundamentals, and phase 2 is where you pay off your debt if you have any. And if you don't, you skip right to phase 3, which is where you start to build wealth rapidly. And we send you a sticker when you finish phase 1, and we send you a sticker in phase 2. And the sticker in phase 1 says, get the hell out of debt. And the sticker in phase 2 says, I got the hell out. So we got to mail her a sticker soon. You probably already did, actually.
I don't know if I did. I've got to go back and look at my list, but just look, right? Look at all of these. These ones are all ones that are going out, like that have just come in the last couple of days for phase 1. All
Amazing.
things. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. I'm really proud of y'all for doing this work. It's really cool. And so today you're going to hear from Ash. She's paid off over 6 figures of debt in the pandemic.
Mhm.
And so you're going to hear how she processed the program and the cool decisions she made and why she's absolutely been a leader in our community.
Ash, thank you so much for coming to talk to us on the podcast. I need to know, first of all, how do you know Erin? Where did you guys meet? How did you come into this world?
I actually first encountered Erin at a Tony Robbins event here in Calgary. I think it was in the summer of 2019. There were a lot of speakers, but Erin, you blew me away and I was hooked. I think you were talking about the four experiences, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
resonated really
Oh,
deeply.
that was the event where I don't know if I should say who, but
I know who.
Molly.
Yeah.
Molly was supposed to go on first thing in the
Hmm.
morning. I was before Rachel, and Molly was supposed to go on, and nobody could find her. So they threw me on, and I didn't even have my clothes yet. So I went up in Spanx and a sweatshirt, is what I wore on stage. I can't believe you are still hanging out with us because that was really
Of
embarrassing.
course. I loved it. The energy and honestly, just the message, all of it was exactly what I was looking for, but I didn't know I was looking for it, if that makes sense.
Oh, I love this. I don't know if we've talked to somebody who first met you there. There's been lots of people that were in your world, Erin, that went to that and heard you speak at that, but they already knew you ahead of time. That is so
Mm,
cool that you first heard of Erin there. I was like a
yeah.
proud mama in the background watching you that day, but also I can't even believe like you were running to the stage and still putting lipstick on, and it was a frazzle city behind the scenes. And then you went out there and you were like, okay, cool, got
Yeah,
this.
you could not tell.
I did
Yeah.
not got this, but thank you guys. Appreciate that very much.
I gotta find that photo now. I have a photo of your butt from
Uh-huh.
behind the stage. I have a
Sure,
butt
yeah,
photo.
that's right.
Okay, cool. So she did the classes of experience, which is like a classic Erin thing that she's morphed from the Tony world into this really great teaching moment. So what about that resonated with you?
I'm always trying to understand the way that I think and the way that subconscious affects behavior and vice versa. Yeah, I'm always reading or listening or trying to understand myself better. And so that just brought some structure into something that felt really ambiguous for me. Typically in the past, I get really excited about signing up for things. It can be really hard for me to finish things. Books, as an example, I love collecting books. I collect them like bottles of wine or postcards, and they sit around and you know, I never understood what it was that like caught me before the follow through for a lot of things that I really legitimately want to do. And so that definitely translated as I eventually jumped into get the hell out of debt. And of course, that was just a deepening of that understanding. But yeah, I think that's what really stuck out for me is I had this little inner sparkle glimmer feeling of like, ooh, there's something here for me for sure.
Yeah, so were you in debt then when you first heard Erin speak?
Yes.
Okay, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was actually there with two other girlfriends. We were all going through different life events, similar times. For me, I was really thinking, I work in IT and I don't necessarily love the career path I'm on, but it has provided me with a steady, good income. With that, sometimes, so in the second book, my money block is spending. I have not had an issue on the income side. I have an issue on the outflow side. And so, that you only live once kind of vibe. There have been vacations and living for the moment. I have two teenagers as well. That definitely just kind of caught up with us. It was okay until life hit and we had, a couple job losses and setbacks and things like that. Where when I would take a step back and go, I've never missed a payment on anything. And on paper, my credit score is great. And I'm not breaking any rules that I had in my head of like, falling behind here or there, but it certainly didn't feel healthy and it didn't feel like I had freedom. If I wanted to leave IT, I really couldn't. I needed to keep at that pace. And it just felt like I was in this almost like a washing machine of
Mhm.
a cycle that I couldn't see the way out of. So that whole day I was thinking about, when you're thinking about what's your goal, what would that thing be that really felt good to be able to accomplish? And it was in that day that I knew I needed to get out of debt.
Are you comfortable sharing with us how much debt did you have?
Yeah, at that time it was about 106,000, just over $106,000 of debt between my husband and I.
Mhm. And was he on board with paying off debt? And you came home and told him about this wonderful woman that you heard speak. Was he on board with doing this with you?
Not resistant to the point of, no, we don't need to do this, but definitely some resistance as far as jumping into the details with me initially. Yeah, that part's definitely been a work in progress throughout the journey. At the same time, we have a lot of trust between us. So as much as I was driving, he was a supporter.
So what did you do first? What was your first step?
My first step was to get real honest about where I was at. So I sat down and I did this full deep dive of, you know, where is my spending going? How much debt do I owe in which different places? What's in my control versus what is outside of my control? So one of the big pieces that we had was a condo that we bought during the peak in 2008, right before the crash. And my family grew. We couldn't continue to live there. So we had renters in there, but we were bleeding money pretty consistently from that. And it wasn't until very recently that we were able to sell that property. And that just was such a huge relief from being able to kind of let that go and focus on the things where we're really paying those things down.
Do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more? More
More
of this,
what? What do I
more,
want more of?
more of this. Come
Oh.
hang out in the online course, Forget the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there.
So you did the course? Is that what you did after the
Mm,
event? You signed up for the course?
yeah, I think the first thing I did was get that number. I wanted to
Yeah.
know where am I starting.
Yeah.
And then I joined into the group. And then from there, very quickly heard about the Get the Hell Out of Debt success stories and people talking about it. And I think I signed up within a couple of days.
Awesome. So you had to put a quick and dirty together. Did you do that?
Yes, I
How did
did.
you do that? Everybody wants to know how you
Yeah.
got your quick and dirty together.
It was probably my biggest lesson, if I'm honest, from all of the lessons throughout. I definitely am a person that just donates things I don't use anymore without really thinking about it. So being able to wrap my head around things have value, and when we, have that respect and value for things, just how magical that can be. So yeah, I went through my basement. I had sports equipment. I had a pull-up bar thing. It was in a box ready for me to drop off at Goodwill. But it was amazing how I could turn that around and get value out of it. But that mindset change of, finding value when you need to is huge.
Yeah, that's so smart. But a complete reframe to go from just trying to get rid of it and take it out of your house to actually considering that other people might want the stuff that you want to get rid of, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there were
So
so many people that were in my community that were looking for those things. So it was cool.
how long did it take you to put it together?
I want to say 3 weeks altogether. I did also find a jar that I had kind of at the back of my cabinet of different currencies from trips we've taken and coins and money. And I never would have thought to even look at that, but that was part of it. And similar, we usually, just donate our cans to bottle drives or whatnot. But I took them in and got money for that. So yeah, within the 3 weeks from kind of different avenues and getting creative, we were able to pull it together.
And I just
And
want to say this because I think it's worth saying is that for people listening, not everywhere in the world takes bottles. So you can't just like
yes,
collect all your cans and bottles and be like, give me money for this. It's not going to work everywhere in the world. But Ash happens to live in an area where when you buy something in a bottle, you pay usually about a 10-cent deposit up front. And then when you return the bottles, you get that back. So I just want to say in case you got to check the where you live to see if that's an actual thing.
I love the bottle depot and I hate the bottle depot. It's so
mhm,
smelly.
yes,
So,
it's
so
so
smelly.
smelly.
There's one bottle depot that I found actually in my neighborhood. And Erin, it's worth driving up here, just so you know, because there's one woman that walks around with her bottle of Febreze and just like that's her job. She was hired just to like spray the place. She looks so happy. She's just wandering around like this, and she makes the place at least smell like a forest or something. A little less like those milk jugs. Gosh, those things are
Oh,
smelly.
yeah.
Okay. So you moved into phase two then, and tell me about which debt you chose to pay off first.
Yeah, my first debt that I chose to pay off was a credit card that we had taken out, I think when we were down to one job, and it was a little bit of just a panic moment of, we're used to operating with this much of a budget and an income, and then things shift. It had a higher interest rate than I liked. And every time I would, log into it and look at it, it just felt icky. I don't know if it was like a full shame vibe, but it certainly wasn't a good feeling. So that was the one that I attacked first, and actually got a pretty quick win from that one, just being able to focus on that. And that was another kind of light bulb moment, is when you're used to like a huge balance and you're just paying minimums, like it really feels like you're treading water. So to get that quick win and to get that hit of like, ooh,
Yeah.
that felt really good.
Yeah, I found that really smart when Erin tells us that you've just got to pick one, and just whatever one is the one. For me, it was my spicy debt, right? I wanted to pay off something, like you said, that just ticked me off. That was just that little thing that I just disliked the one more than all the rest of them. And it's such a great sense of accomplishment when you get that done, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it starts to feel like, the proof is in front of you. You can
Yeah.
see it starting something's changed and the momentum starts to build from there.
Did you run into any obstacles when you were in phase two?
Definitely. So we started this process at the end of 2019. So we came into COVID pretty quickly, which, I think it was a bit of a blessing and a curse. We didn't have, the FOMO of being invited on trips and lots of people going out or anything like that. But at the same time, you're kind of looking for some sense of happiness or, something that just kind of feels good. So there was definitely a bit of an Amazon spike at the beginning of COVID of things we probably didn't need.
You're talking to the girls who still have unfinished paint by number kits. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. For us, I think it was puzzles. We like invested in full puzzle mats and a bunch of puzzles, and
Hey, there's no judgment here. We did what we did, what we
we
needed to do
tried. We
to
tried
get
some
us
new
through
things.
that time.
We survived. Yeah.
Yeah, so those would be the big ones. My husband did, he was working in a retail place that closed at the beginning of COVID, but he was able to find another job really quickly, which was good.
Did you have to tap into your quick and dirty ever? Were there emergencies that came up?
Yes, yeah, there were definitely emergencies that came up. We had, I'll tell two stories that contrast each other. So the first is we were about to take a trip to the island with the kids, and we had an SUV and we were just sending it in for, your routine maintenance before you take a road trip. And, everything for the trip is booked, it's locked in, it's ready to go. Found out the SUV is about to die and should not be driven anywhere, never mind to BC. Kind of a bit of a panic. We ended up taking my small little Mazda to go on the trip anyway. Had two teenagers, a dog, and just jammed this thing full. And we made that work. But when we came back, we did need to figure out another car situation. And that was a little bit of an unexpected. We thought we could kind of wait a couple more years for that. But, everything we learned from budgeting allowed us to work a budget that would make sense for a new vehicle, a reliable SUV that'll allow us to go to BC. That's where my family is. So worked out well on that side. Some other things that came up as needing to be replaced during this time frame. We had couch. I don't know if you've ever seen those, like it's like a leather, but it's not real leather. It's like a fake leather. And in about 2020, maybe 2021, it started peeling and shedding and just it decided it didn't want to exist anymore. And it was just shedding everywhere. We had to vacuum daily. And I was so stubborn on sticking to my budget. I was like, it's ugly, but we can sit on it. And so for I think 2 years almost, we would get up and you'd have pieces of couch stuck to you. We'd have people over and they'd be like, "Oh," and we'd be like, "I have a plan, and the time's not now."
Flipping sofa with the duct tape. I
Yeah,
totally was there once in my life. Yep, I remember.
it was fine. It was functional. We could still sit and watch TV. It was fine. So yeah, there were some decisions where we definitely were like, "Okay, this is a must. We got to figure this out," and others where we were like, "This is a short period of time.
Yeah.
We can wait."
Your butts will be fine for another little while, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so how long did it take you to pay off your debt?
4 years in total.
Mhm.
I would say, honestly, we probably could have done it a little bit quicker if we wanted to. We were comfortable with that pace, and it allowed us to still do the little things that we wanted to do. Like we had little vacations. We could have gotten more frugal by pulling the kids out of activities, but we decided at these ages we wanted to keep those things going. So that was just, yeah, a conversation between my husband and I as to what we were comfortable with. I would say that the net worth tracking was the biggest piece for us in being able to see those numbers consistently going down. And if I ever would see indication that that might be changing, we would come have the naked money meeting and sit down and say, okay, what's starting to go a little bit left or right off course here? And that would allow us to make sure, okay, checking in, are we still on this 4-year plan, and making sure that we were.
Okay, so this is what's so cool. So you had a $25,000 change in position just on the debt side every year, roughly. How
Yep.
old are you? Because before you said you had two teenagers. So I was like, oh, she met her husband when they were 5 and now they have babies because you look 20 years old.
Thank
But
you.
how old are you now?
I'm 40.
Okay, so let's say 25 years. I was out of curiosity. I thought, let's just put this in the compound interest calculator and see, like, if you continue to now take 25,000 a year that you were putting on debt and invest it instead, you've probably already run this calculation, but it's $2,251,711.70.
Wild.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like, that's where you're headed now that you're completely debt free and you can focus on the other side of things and absolutely immerse yourself in phase 3. So, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That's so great,
65-year-old multimillionaire.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you paid the last bit off? Tell me about that.
Yes. And I knew that that would be our last one. I could see it coming. I knew it was going to be that November payment. I remember hitting the payment button and then just for 3 days straight refreshing on the page to see the payment actually apply. I was just so anxious. And we had a little visual thing that we were coloring in to make sure that we, stayed the course and could see that progress together. I colored it in immediately and then found out, oh, my husband probably would have wanted to do that together. I was just so excited. Oh my gosh, nothing felt as rewarding as that did. Just seeing it like it's done and we're never going back here again.
Okay, so tell me, what have you been doing since?
A couple things. So I mentioned the couch that fell apart. We did replace the couch and my bedroom as well. We are, as I mentioned, 40 years old. I don't think we've ever like furnished like a grown up.
Yeah.
And so that felt really exciting. We got new bedroom furniture, nothing crazy, but just, matches each other. And it feels really like a calm oasis in our bedroom now. So that was kind of the big gift to selves.
I feel like we're sisters because I am also in my grown-up furniture era. I'm slowly replacing furniture in my home based on things that I have to screw together that are named like
Yeah.
Crippendall and things like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it feels really good. I'm like, oh,
It
I
does.
didn't know I could do this, but look at us go.
It feels good, like every time you walk into that room, you get to say, look what we did.
Mhm.
Yeah, purposeful, right? Oh,
Yeah.
it's so
Totally.
nice. Yeah.
So are you investing now? Tell me about your wealth building.
Okay, so this is definitely the point at which I am currently sitting. I would refer to it maybe as the void.
Ooh.
So, side quest story. Growing up, we definitely lived in a lot of like frugalness. That's kind of what I'm used to, and that definitely is something that I unpacked. As I mentioned, my spending money block, I also have the hard work money block. And so now that I've come out of this 4 years of intense focus, there's this strong urge in me to be like, okay, before we like refocus, let's just like breathe.
Mhm.
And it feels a little bit like the void. So part of me is in one side of my mind saying, we'd like to buy a house. Our housing market is insane. So the other part of me is like, do we want to buy a house? And then there's, other things like education funds for my kids. And I work for a major bank now, and they offer all of these options where they'll top things up. And I just feel like I'm a little bit just trying to settle before I jump in and go all in and be consumed.
Erin, I know you have something to say about this.
Could you tell by my face?
Yep.
Ash, I love you in a million ways. And so it was so fun how Carrie at the beginning said, oh, how do you know Erin? And I wanted to be like, let me tell you how I know Ash. My awareness about Ash first came when she was sharing in the Facebook group. I was like, this girl is smart. It was almost weird to me. I'm like, how did this brilliant person get into debt? But you get into debt the same way everybody else gets into debt, which is like we're marketed to and, whatever. But this is like absolutely something that I could see you teaching because of how brilliantly you applied the lessons, made them your own, but then really just stayed consistent and did the work over time. So I think it's interesting because I think one of the things that people do is when they see the debt at the end as the finish line, they
Mhm.
do need that breath. So I think we have to go, wait a second, we're not at the finish line yet. And that can kind of help with that mindset a little bit. But I really do think it's critical now that you start at least putting something. So you've got that sort of $2,000 a month or $1,800 a month that has been available. If we don't give those dollars a job right away, they're going to be absolutely put into the furniture. And as you know, furniture is not an asset and it's going to depreciate over time, right? So I do want you to have
Yeah.
some fun with it, but I want you to really think about what is the number. And even if you don't know quite yet where you want to put it, we can just kind of throw it into a high interest savings account for just a little bit. We wouldn't do it forever, but we just put it aside for a bit. And then you got to come up with a deadline for yourself. So it's got
Yeah.
to be like, by April 1st, which is Carrie's anniversary. So if you're like, by the time
Oh,
Carrie and Nick celebrate their 400th anniversary, because they've been married for decades and centuries, then I'm going to start investing, right? You got to come up with that for yourself. Here's what you're going to do because you're Canadian. What you're going to do first is you're going to have a look at your taxes when you file your taxes and just see if there's a way that you can lower your income taxes by contributing to that RSP. And if so, you're going to kind of figure out what that number is. You're going to talk to your accountant or whoever does your taxes, and you're going to start building that into your 2024 investing so that every year, right, your income tax is lowered. And then when you get that refund, whatever that amount is, that amount immediately goes in your tax-free savings account. We used to call it the RSP supercharger. So it's like you kind of get a double bang for your buck, right?
yep.
And then over and above that, every dollar is now going to go into your tax-free savings account and it's going to be invested. So it can't just sit in the tax-free savings account. It's got to like be invested. What color is the bank you do most of your banking at, whether it's your employer or not?
Dark blue.
Ah, got it. Okay, dark blue. So they do have a bunch of options for you that are potentially like really great, but they also have a lot that are really high fee.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you're going to look for the ones that are, they've got one that's an index like DZ fund, the
Okay.
letters D and Z. You're going to like sort of look at that and look at the ones that are in that asset category because those ones have much, much, much lower fees compared to other investments, but they also have really high returns and they're designed for growth. They're basically index funds in a way. So you're going to look
Okay.
at those. You're also going to look at other options, maybe at other institutions, because even though there might be perks to it, right? You really have to compare the total results. But regardless, you're going to keep track of what your total tax-free savings account limit is. And you're going to max it out, whether it's at one institution or three institutions, but you're going to track your contributions. And then all that money is going to be off the table. And then what we're going to do is we're kind of going around the home and we're going to squeeze the regular budget, just like you would have squeezed to be aggressive. You're going to squeeze the regular budget to buy those furnishings. And what that will do is it'll allow those money bunnies to kind of be working in the background. But the sooner we start, the better. So that's kind of how you're going to do it. Now, inside the RSP and inside the tax-free savings account, you're going to do something called asset allocation, which is make sure that you're dividing your investment choices among a number of different things. So the first one I love, everybody knows this, is the ETFs. Erin loves ETFs. You can start off by putting like 50% of your money in ETFs. The other 20% you might do mutual funds. This isn't like a formula. So if you're in your car, don't be like, I got to pull over and write this down right now. Everybody's different. I just know a couple of things about Ash, and this is just to get her started. And as she goes, she's going to adjust. And as you go along your wealth journey, you're going to adjust your asset allocation and move things around to make more sense for you. And then the rest you're going to put into other types of investments that interest you that might be still very growth focused because you're so young. But also, you might want to buy a couple of stocks in there just for fun. You're going to buy stocks for long-term growth, not like quick little hits. That's a different type of investing you get when you're more sophisticated. But you pick like those companies that you love, that you believe in, companies that have been around for a long period of time, but you don't do any of that stock picking until you've got all those other things, because it's highly likely that in those mutual funds, in those exchange traded funds, and in those index funds, they probably already have some of those stocks in those funds. So if you've already got them, right, it doesn't necessarily make sense to buy them again.
Right.
That's not really diversification. So that's your homework. And you're going to try and get as much of that done. I would tell you, at least, do you have the TFSA opened anywhere yet?
Yes. Yeah, I have two.
Great. So you're going to just have a look at them, see how they've been performing, and then just decide, okay, what and when. And same for hubby. He's got to open his TFSA or get that kind of going too. And you guys will decide between the two of you how you're going to do it. But is he salaried too? Contract. Okay. So you're salaried. So your job is to automate yours. So it just comes out automatically every month. And his, we have to just be a little more strategic with, based on receivables and when those come in. He's going to put 30% of his income aside in a high interest savings account for taxes. That's his future tax money. Whatever he doesn't spend, of course, then he can reinvest. The key is that RSP for him is even more crucial because we have to lower the amount of taxable income he's paying for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, that's
That
your
makes sense.
TED talk for the day that I just vomited all over you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second lecture you've had to hear me give in my life. First one was
That's
classroom
super helpful.
experiences. But that'll just kind of get you started. And then, as always, you're going to do what you did before in the program, which is update that net worth and check everything. And it gets really fun updating a net worth when there's assets there.
Yes.
The other thing you didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you anyway,
Mhm,
since you're here and you're captive,
mhm.
is I wouldn't worry so much about the house now. Like you're saying, the house can often feel like it's an asset, but as you know, it's not technically an asset. And I know in the city that you live, there are lots of options like this. So it would be worth reaching out to a couple builders or a couple realtors who specialize in this type of property, but
Mhm.
find something with like a duplex or a carriage house or a suite in the basement or something like a legal suite in the basement. Find something if you are going to move into something that has an income producing part to it, because
Mhm.
the first house we move into after especially not being a homeowner for a while
Yep.
or taking a break on the rental properties or whatever for a while, the first house we move into is never going to be the dream house that you're in for a long period of time. So we have to
Right.
buy it with the intention of renting it out in the future in mind.
Mm,
And so if you
yeah.
can have some of your costs subsidized or all of your costs subsidized, like I know people who live in the basement, if it's a walkout basement, they'll live in the
Mhm.
basement because it's got lots of sunlight, cram their family in there, rent out
Yeah.
the upstairs, and they have virtually no expenses. So if you can
Yeah.
find that kind of a setup, that's where I would be looking before I look for a single family home,
That
which
makes sense.
people are like, oh, but I don't want tenants. I'm like, that's nice. Do you want to be rich or do you want to be annoyed once a month? Like,
Yeah.
take your pick.
Exactly. No, that makes a lot of sense. We've been looking at the new home buyers
Hmm,
thing as well, which we qualify for.
yeah.
Would you fit that into what you just described, or would you just wait?
I would not use my RSPs. Like, you mean the new home buyers where you take out your RSPs to use the down payment?
It's a new one where you don't have to take out your RSPs, but it acts as an RSP and you can
Oh,
put
the home buyers savings plan, the H.
yes.
Yeah, 100% I would do that. Yeah, because if you
Okay.
don't use it, you get to roll it into your RSP.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I
Great.
opened one of those. I don't
Thank you.
qualify for it, but of course I have to do all the things to see, just so I know all the institutions that offer it and I, know the banking system intimately or whatever. So I opened one. I'm just
Yeah.
not allowed to put any money in it, but it does look pretty
Makes
slick.
sense.
So
That's super helpful. Thank you,
yeah.
Erin.
What are you planning for your retirement? Have you thought ahead to the future, like long term? What does that look like?
That is an excellent question. So I have been building a pension since I was 19. I do have some RSPs as well. I would love to do a career shift and move into something that's more aligned with kind of what lights me up. And so that's definitely something else that's been on my mind.
You can't just leave me hanging,
Oh my
Ash. What do
goodness.
you mean? What is it?
So, it's called, I don't know how to describe it. So I know that in my job today in IT, I get to lead people, build teams, make sure that people feel supported, keep the noise and the politics away from them, help them develop skills. I love all those pieces. I want to take that into a different space though. That's not big bank IT so I'm thinking of writing a book. I'm thinking I want to keep doing my yoga and expanding through meditation. I've looked at things like death doula, which I know sounds kind of
Mhm.
different. Stuff like that. I want to help humans is kind of at the core of it, but how that's going to actually come into reality, I'm still working out. But I see all those little pieces kind of coming together and being able to, yeah, just have a bigger impact in a different way, I guess.
Carrie wants to know if you're willing to infiltrate the bank on the inside for us.
Man, that was my hope when I got there. That was my hope for sure.
Well, we'll still have a plan. We'll talk offline later how we're going to infiltrate.
See, Carrie, they do give you a Madonna headset, but they steal your soul.
Yes, yes, that is accurate.
Okay, while you were going through this whole journey of paying off your debt, how
Mhm.
open were you with your kiddos?
Very open. Yeah. We actually also did the Teach Your Kids About Money course through Erin. So they're starting with that financial literacy, which, is just, I wish I had that as a kid, but yeah, very open. They saw the coloring in each time. We'd have conversations about milestones and especially when we first started, we were like, hey, we're going to go out for dinner a lot less. Things are going to be more mindful and purposeful. It doesn't mean we're not going to have fun. It's just we're going to be more thoughtful about it. And they've been, yeah, super receptive and interested and along for the whole journey.
Were there times that you had to tell them no?
Oh yeah. Usually around going out for dinner. Like that was the big one for them is they really appreciate when we could order in or go out. And with time though, I think they see, it's even more meaningful when you're looking forward to it and it's on the calendar and that's, something special that we're planning.
Yeah, rather than just doing a drive-through on the way home, it's actually like an event that you get to do, right? With the whole
Yeah.
family. Tell me, now that you've gone through all of the things, what is one of the teachings that you learned that resonated the most with you?
If I could summarize it, I would say it's a dance between the micro and zooming into the smallest details and being able to then back up and see the whole and to not get lost in the weeds of this or that. I think when you back up, you can drown because it's so big and
I'm
scary.
giggling because Erin is like cheering and bowing and doing all the things.
I bow to thee. That is exactly the most succinct way of describing it.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Most people do one or the other. They
Yeah.
stay so far back that they're overwhelmed, or they get so in the weeds they miss the point. And you're
Yes.
right. It's almost like you have this like giant lens and you're constantly going in and out just to check to make sure everything's still going in the direction you want it to go for the big
Yep.
picture, but also that the little decisions you're making, how they all line up with each other. And yes, brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, huge. That was massive. Other thing that was huge for me is like I've taken other financial workshops or deep dives or books before. I've never had something address the mindset like this. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I like to understand behavior and thought processes and how subconscious plays into our day to day. And so that was absolutely the key for me, the missing piece for me, being able to, initially coming in, I was like, oh, am I going to have to be restricted for this entire time period and feel like I'm being crushed and having to say no every single day? And, there's information there. As soon as you feel discomfort, it's like, what is that? Where did it come from? And how do we make friends with it and soften a little bit? So huge. I think those two things were absolutely the difference makers.
So if somebody's listening right now and they haven't signed up for the course yet, what would
Mhm.
you tell them?
Just be open. Any kind of resistance or fears that you have will very quickly be addressed as you start to look at the content and understand there's no shoulds in the program or in the community. I loved that. You're not going to come into a space where you're feeling like the weight of your past decisions is in your face every day. Definitely, I think there can be some of those fears of looking at the state of things. It's almost like looking in the mirror when you haven't for a while. And so, yeah, I think coming in with openness and being just willing to try is the biggest thing. And as soon as you start to get those tiny wins, they just ball.
And then I know this is weird because Erin's right here, but tell
Yeah,
me what she means to you and what kind of teacher she is. Tell us all the nice things about Erin.
absolutely. As I mentioned, I do my yoga teacher training. They teach you that when a mentor is meant to come into your life, they will. You don't need to stress about finding a mentor. Timing aligns, and that's 1,000% how I feel about Erin is I couldn't have planned it. The timing was absolutely perfect. And the way that Erin teaches with compassion and it's so holistic changed my life and also has taught me how to show up in spaces. Ugh, I don't even know how to put it into words, Erin, the impact that you've had on my life. I'm just deeply grateful. Coming back to the shoulds, there's never shoulds. There's just information and you can integrate it or not. And that's completely full autonomy for whoever's learning and coming along for the journey. And I think the other big piece is just you're very real. There's no different versions of Erin in the book versus the course. You're just a very authentic person who I feel like I connect with very well. I think most people, if not all people, connect with you very well. That's absolutely the most supportive approach to something like this, which can typically be a difficult thing to dive into. So very grateful.
I'm so grateful for you. And I just have appreciated the way you've shown up in the community with your, posting the pictures of you coloring in the squares was just such a light bulb moment for so many other people. And you really don't do it from a place of, hey guys, I've already paid off this amount of money, like go
Mhm.
me. You never ever approached it from even though we wanted you to kind of brag about yourself a little bit, because I wondered sometimes if you were celebrating yourself enough. but I just love how you continue to show up as a leader and in a really servant-hearted way. And it's just, it just explains exactly why you feel at your job sometimes like maybe you want to start to do this in another space, because it's clear how you're showing up in your job is really brilliant. And
Oh,
I
thank you.
kind of want to go to one of your yoga classes. Are you fully certified yet? Are you allowed to teach yoga?
I am. Yep, yep.
Oh,
I just do
Erin,
it volunteer right now.
her
But yeah,
voice. Like, don't you just want to be in? I'm not going to actually do the yoga. I'm going to lay on the floor and cry with the hips wide open or in
that
Savasana.
is yoga. That's yoga.
That is yoga. Probably
Hmm.
toot a little too, but we'll see.
That's fine.
Um, but I just think you're really brilliant. And I just want to thank you for being a part of this community and continuing to serve and lead and share. And when we asked you to be on the podcast, the fact that you were willing to do it was so great, because I know it's hard sometimes, especially when you've been in the community with these people this whole time, to then be like, okay, I'm going to expose myself even further. And but what you've done today is really help people who have that sense of overwhelm that you might have had in 2019 really go, okay, it's a journey that I have to go on. It's not like this result I have to have. It's an actual full unfolding, and
Yeah.
demonstrated that so beautifully today.
Oh, thank you. So very similar to the debt journey, I've also been on a pretty significant health journey. So chronic illness, I have ankylosing spondylitis. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a
Rare.
mouthful.
Isn't that the rare one with the, is it your joints?
Joints. Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I didn't know this.
yeah, yeah. I can parallel the journey of finding health with chronic illness to a financial journey very closely, where you've got the symptoms, but then you've also got something else going on underneath. And sometimes for me, that was overworking or too much stress or not enough sleep, XYZ. But it was really, really cool to go through those journeys at the same time. And also kind of cool as well that I had this surgery this summer, pretty much parallel to the time I was about to wrap up the debt journey. So my chronic pain ended, the debt was paid off. I turned 40 and it just feels like this completion of this chapter, which has been
Wow,
really cool.
that's so cool.
And
Thank you
you're
for sharing that.
only 40. Like, this is the best
Yeah.
part of all of this. You are not even like, you're not even middle of your life yet. Like, you have accomplished so much. That's really cool.
And you look 20,
Thank
which
you.
is like also
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of a little bit, I'm kind of mad about that part, but everything else I'm okay with.
oh, thank you.
I love her.
Me
I'm
too. And
definitely going to fart in one of her yoga classes soon.
I'm sure she really can't wait. I'm sure she's super excited about that.
She doesn't know, but in about 5 or 6 more years, she's going to not be able to control it either. Okay. It's not a me problem. It's an aging problem. Watch now, somebody out there is going to message me like, Erin, no, I'm a medical professional and this is not,
And this is just you.
this is just you. Here I am. My husband lets me get away with it because he's like, yeah, well, bodies change and we do get older. It's okay. It's perfectly normal and natural.
What I love is that both Ash and I showed up in our shirts. Mine today with words on it. Mine says mascara and coffee, and hers said self-love, and yours says nothing. But I'm going to get you a shirt that says Erin loves ETFs.
I thought you were going to say yours is black, like the color of your soul.
No, but I thought when you were talking about ETFs and the fact that you say that all the time, I'm like, you just need it on a shirt.
Yeah, but I am always careful with financial stuff because it changes so often. And so right now I love ETFs, but a better product might come out in the marketplace. Just like banks, I don't love any specific bank because they change. Right now I'm absolutely insane for Simply Financial in Canada. I think they're just killing it, but that could change.
Well, I'm not going to buy you an expensive shirt that you need to keep forever. We'll just get a cheap one. You wear it a couple times, we'll get you a new one.
But the permanence of it, I just feel like it should. Can I just have a shirt with a dinosaur on it or something like that? Or like you're loved? How about that? That would be.
I'll rethink this.